is more like Che, not Trey, but he says it in a way that's probably hard for non-Korean speakers to hear correctly. I did say Trey and Trey in my video.
And this one is actually pronounced Che, and this one pronounced Che.
But Choi.
Sounds like Choi. The oi is pronounced like the we in we. Choi. Choi Seung-hyun. Back when I was looking at all the clips from Top's filmography, 71 Into the Fire was a top 3 eye catcher for me. If you're a fan of his, you know by now that the movie takes its premise of the 71 student soldiers defending a middle school station during the Battle of Pohang-dong in August of 1950. I'm gonna throw a curveball here and say that it started a bit slow and the pedestal that I had placed it on was collapsing. It turns out the experience was muddled a bit by Tubi. It was my first time using them, but the quality was kind of yucky. I did end up finding this version on archive.org and it looked much better, and I'm gonna link it in the description for you if you want to go see this for yourself. I airplayed it from my phone to my TV and I was able to download it, so it seems like free use. So I'm gonna be showing you some clips, and if I get arrested, you know why. Though I was lost on the vibe of the beginning, it's actually super important to the entire movie. Not even joking. We follow Top's character 𝙎𝙬𝘾 as he experiences his first battle. He's looking pretty traumatized, shaking like crazy, and an absolute mess. There's absolutely minimal dialogue for the first 15 minutes or so, and the battlefield is gritty to the max. It's when the troops retreat and we are introduced to the middle school that the story finds its footing. 𝙎𝙬𝘾 is one of the 3 volunteer soldiers with combat experience. So you know what the old captain does? Makes his trembling ass the squad leader. It turns out the main platoon is going to battle, leaving the middle school unguarded if it weren't for the student volunteers. I couldn't believe it, and I even thought he was going to object. Could he handle responsibility after watching his companion die in front of him, which he couldn't stop? What's also impressive is you have to remember these are students, and they're volunteers at that. This was before the mandatory conscription in 1957. As the story progresses, 𝙎𝙬𝘾 showcases his balls to everyone, but the fact he doesn't object here is the first sign. I don't think I would have volunteered for this. Shit. Luckily for our squad leader, he doesn't have to handle every duty alone. There's another character with combat experience that shuts BS down when it arises. There's a mathematician lord you can't help but love to see on screen. And the thug head of the thug trio. This guy is the next one that needs attention. Now watching this portion back, I can't help but laugh seeing this Hershey's bar. That's his boy, one of his other goons, but the guy front and center, 𝙎𝙀𝙁𝑾𝙀𝙍, the hot-headed gangster. He's our mini antagonist, but you grow to like him. Trust me. And now that we have the characters at the forefront with the goal of defending the base while the soldiers go to the battlefield, we get to see how these guys progress as a unit. I'm so glad 71 isn't entirely a youthful, chaotic movie where we see the characters tear each other down. Like, they actually have courage and they give into this life. I don't speak with my hands in person, but it's something about being on camera where you gotta emphasize. Like here at their first big encounter. Or here where they go off on a chase and another freaking shootout begins. One thing I noticed throughout 71 is the mention of orders. Of course you're gonna hear, "That's an order!" in these movies, but something about 71 and the innocence of untrained volunteers really makes it seem harsh. And not just the reality of innocence, but take this scene here. Commander Pak Mu-rong, the main antagonist and the man we should fear. In the midst of the night, he takes out a photo. He looks at it in a pensive manner. And then you get the majestic leader. This takes place a month and a half into the Korean War. Maybe it's earlier enough in the 3-year span where you haven't lost all of your humanity. It's dramatization, so just go with my words. Oh my goodness. Do you hear that? Excuse me one moment while I take care of this. A harsh price to pay for peace and quiet. Another impressive feat I found were the depiction of the battlefields themselves. I didn't expect them to look that realistic or show the grit of war as they did. As impressive as it is, but also informative of what warfare was dealt with at the time. Even if there are some cinematic liberties, this wasn't a joyful time. As much as we see the volunteer force struggle at the base, this is what they avoided. Into the Fire has pretty solid acting from the whole cast, and this movie gave Choi Seung-hyun 3, from what I perceive, important awards for Best New and Popular Actor.
And I loved him in Squid Game, so I just want to see him in more things. It's a bit insane to see the range in a 14-year difference. And I can't believe Top partook in this harsh and historic role while also being an idol, a star. 𝙎𝙊𝘾𝙄𝘼𝑺.
This isn't a Hollywood blockbuster, so I want to share as much footage as I can rather than myself here. This is a scene with 40 minutes left in the runtime where 𝙎𝙀𝙁𝙀𝙀𝙁 wants to desert the squad and join the front lines. Look at the emotion in his face. His arc isn't over yet, but I told you you'd like him. That is a face of a man that's been through the mud. Allow me to unmute so you can hear the score.
Score is on the bingo sheet of my movie discussions. Every movie needs its music highlighted.
I usually go through spoilers,
'Cause whatever.
but I don't want to share how this movie ends. The resolution is the climax, and the movie ultimately ends with a thoughtful cherry on top. Yeah, I'll say there's a battle, but it's epic. It's full of determination and soul and spirit and all that. If you end up rewatching 71 Into the Fire, those sentimental scenes hit you much harder.
The orchestra, the battle cry.
It's been quite the time with these volunteer soldiers, and whatever outcome or fate lies ahead of them, this is the big bang moment to recuperate their hopes. I'll leave the last 30 or so minutes of footage for your own viewing. For the conclusion of my own video, I want to mention Big Bad Wolf Commander Pak Murong again. There's a point towards the second half where he ends up in the middle school base and offers the volunteer force a chance for mercy. Surrender and you can live. I know you're only students. I think this makes him such a well-written character because it gives him depth. He looked at that photo earlier. He's giving these men a chance to live, and out from battle and death.
Of course they don't take this mercy, and at the end of the day, Commander Pak is a villain, but when the final confrontation begins, Pak is in pure shock because not only did they refuse his mercy, but they fired shots first. Talk about humanity, layers, multitudes.
He then goes on the immediate offense after that.
It is true that tears stream down my face, and if you're wondering how can I relay that emotion to you without spoiling, 42 minutes into the runtime. 71 Into the Fire is woven with letters 𝙎𝙬𝘾𝙄𝘾 writes to his mother. The very first one is a beautiful moment. The letters feature his narration, speaking out his words to her. But what's special about this one is the volunteer force. Goofing around, just doing what a couple of guys do.
오늘 저희와 함께 포항을 지키던 국군들이 모든 악동강 전선으로 떠났습니다.
𝙎𝙬𝘾 hopes their laughter doesn't vanish. It's probably the most wholesome, worry-free scene in this movie.
저와 그들의 웃음소리가 사라지지 않도록 지켜주십시오.
And it's worth noting that through everything, he kept his mother on his mind. He's a bit of a reserved character, so these letters show us who he is.
The filmmakers knew what they were doing there. However much was dramatized, it made for a compelling story. Bit of a shorter video today, but that's okay. I expressed as much as I could, and I'm not trying to milk anything. Have you seen 71 Into the Fire? Leave a comment if you had. I'm interested in reading thoughts and having a conversation about it. And if you haven't, well, it's on Tubi and 𝙎𝙬𝘾𝙄𝑼𝑑.org. It's in the description box. Love what you like, folks. Protect your energy. And I look forward to more of Top's freaking projects. It's kind of a shame he's aged out of this youthful role. But what can you do, huh?